Right, we're back. We're here to talk about Night Lords. Now, Night Lords was something I'd completely written off.
I did too.
I just flicked past it. I thought, no.
Yeah.
There's so many armies which are fearless that the Night Lords, their warlord trait is.
Or their legion trait.
Yeah, their legion trait. Yeah,
is it's -1 leadership when you're within 6 inches of one of their units, and that can stack up to 3 times. So if you have 3 units that are within 6 inches of a unit that suffers a morale check, it has to -3 from their leadership, which I wouldn't write off immediately. The reason you're writing them off from a competitive standpoint is that you know that you're going to be playing against lists that are fearless. So what's some examples of fearless lists?
Orcs are effectively fearless because they use the leadership as the size of their squad.
Yep.
Next to it. Dark Angels, they only ever lose 1 model.
Yep.
What other ones are there?
Well, Tyranids are just fearless when they're in Synapse range, which can be pretty tricky. Even Demons, if they're playing around their Grey and Clean ones and stuff, they're leadership 10, so it really is hard to get leadership off from them.
Yeah, and a lot of other stuff, so minimum strength units that it doesn't ever really come into play.
Well, and bear in mind that every army in the game has access to stratagem for 2CP to make them fearless, so it's understandable to write them off. Before we completely write them off, I would just simply say that if you're forcing someone to pay 2CP because their army isn't naturally fearless, that's a good legion trait to have. And similarly, when they don't bother with a 2CP, they're going to be suffering heavy losses. It is really great on some small units of expensive models. So Obliterators or Centurions or something like that. You kill 1 model, and then because of the leadership debuffs, they're losing a 2nd or a 3rd. It can be very hard to kill that 2nd or 3rd with shooting, but they just have to remove the model for the leadership. So it is good, but it does have the counters.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I told you what I thought about it, and you've got some great ideas, haven't you, about little combos, little ways of actually, when you actually reduce their leadership, there's lots of other things you can do to cause damage around that. It's not just morale checks.
It is, exactly. There is a lot of things in the game that work off the morale. And that was the first thing that I did, is just as soon as I looked at that, I started looking through all the books and say, okay, well, what weapons, what psychic powers, what combos work off morale?
So what things have you got which can reduce your leadership if you take Raptors?
Night Lords, So, the Raptors are the first unit in the game that you think of. They're the only thing in the CSM Codex that has a native -1 leadership. So, they're on the data state, they just have an entry that just gives -1 leadership.
So now they're -2.
So -2 because they're Night Lords. The other thing as well is the Warlord trait, which isn't the Night Lords Warlord trait, weirdly enough. I don't think the Night Lords one is very good. It just lets you reroll one hit or wound or save roll, I think it is. It's not what you're going to be taking. If you're going to be playing Night Lords, you're doubling down on that. And the stock CSM, the 6 Warlord traits you can pick from, one of them is just -1 leadership. So if you take, the nice little simple combo for it is you take a Chaos Lord, squad of Raptors, and then maybe another squad of Raptors or a squad of Orc Talons. Those 3 units would be -1 from each unit, stacking up. Then you get another -1 from the Raptors and another -1 from the Warlord, which means that's -5 leadership debuff. So that's the very simple thing.
And that's only the start, isn't it?
That is.
Come up with.
There's multiple other ways of getting in there. So, a great weapon, I think it's probably one of the best weapons Chaos have access to, is the Butcher Cannon, or the Butcher Cannon Array. It depends on what vehicle or monster it's on. And that is when you cause a wound with that, so you do have to cause an unsaved wound, it is straight just -2 leadership. So now they're at -7 leadership. So at this point, most stuff will have a 7 leadership or less, and now they're at 0 leadership. So very, very powerful, and those are great guns anyway. You want to be taking in your army, so you're not shoehorning it in there in any way.
So the next question is, what can you do with this leadership debuff?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you then are peering through the books to look for what works with leadership, and again, when we talk about Chaos, we have to be talking about Demons. They're just part and parcel. You are always looking at both those books at the same time. And you're also talking about Forge World stuff as well. You should, whenever you're building a Chaos list, you need to have your Imperial Armor book, your Demon books, and your CSM book, and you have to have all pages open, just flicking through them, because that's where all the combos come from. And the unexpected stuff, particularly from the Forge World element. So the first one that really jumped to mind for me is from the Demons book, and it's actually a Slaanesh Psychic Power. So there's a Slaanesh Psychic Power, which is, I think it's a Warp Charge 6, and basically you roll 2 dice and compare it to the unit's leadership. Any roll over the leadership is a mortal wound. So on a standard unit that's maybe leadership 8, you roll 2d6, so you get a 10, you're doing 2 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
You get a 7, you're not doing any mortal wounds. So it doesn't seem like that great a power.
No, not on the face of it. When you're leadership 0,
When you're leadership 0, you're rolling 2d6 mortal wounds.
And it's a targetable power, isn't it?
It's a targetable power.
So
No, it is. Sorry, it is actually the closest.
Okay,
model.
so you've got to get in closer.
Yeah, but then bear in mind you're playing Raptors, so you're playing Night Lords, so you have everything with. It's going to have jump packs, and it's going to be deep striking. It's going to be. It's got the fly keyword, so it's fly keywords, so it can go over units. It is relatively easy to get that in there. Or I mean, probably what you do in that case is you would have a Steed of Slanesh, which is a 14-inch move. You can either take a Lord on it, and he can be your Warlord, or you can take it as a Demon Herald on a Slanesh Steed. And you've got those ways of getting in there and actually utilising that. So that's really powerful. There's some stuff in the Forge World books that are big guns that work off for leadership.
Yeah.
The Maglid Tanis Stalker, I think it is. I can't describe it. But that works off leadership as well. So I just encourage you guys to peer through the books and look through those combos because there's things that work really well.
Is there any relics or?
Yeah, and their relic for their, which is Claws of the Black Hunt, is absolutely fantastic. I'd have to look up exactly what it does. It basically replaces Lightning Claws, and it gives you. It's +1 strength, AP -3, D3 damage, and you get +1 attack for doing it. And also, in addition, you can reroll failed wounds with this weapon.
That's not bad for effectively an assault army, aren't you? You're a morale, deep striking, and then assault army, aren't
Absolutely, and you're going to be, and it's fluffy and it looks really cool as well, having these 2 massive lightning claws that are AP -3, D3 damage each, re-rolling wounds, and giving you extra attacks. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. You want to be putting that on the Chaos Lord. To be honest, if you're talking about the archetype of the list, if you're playing Night Lords, it's deep strike heavy. You want to be maxing out on that. Half your army should be in deep strike. Because you need to be getting within 6-inch ranges and you're playing everything.
It's Raptors, it's Lords and jump packs.
It's Warp Talons. It's Warp Talons. No, Warp Talons are a little bit overcosted. But actually, first thing to note is they have the Demon keyword. So now you're back into your Demon Codex.
Anything which has the Demon keyword is golden, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And as we talked about when we talked about Black Legions and Iron Warriors, they're not like World Eaters, which are specific Khorne, can only take Khorne units. Night Lords can take any units, any mark, sorry. So you can be making those Warp Talons to be Khorne, so you can be buffing them up with all the Khorne stuff in the Demons book. Slanesh, again, to be buffing them up with that stuff. Even Nurgle and stuff, there is certain combos you can get there with extra damage on the 6s and things like that. So it is definitely worth considering them. I think one of the things that I've always considered is that if you're deep striking heavy, you need to have ways to re-roll your charges. Yeah. So you're having to take Icon of Wrath, which means you're having to go Khorne. So it's pretty much the way you're going to be playing them.
Yeah. I'd say the other thing if you're going deep strike heavy is you've got to have some way of not being sort of zoned out.
Yeah.
So things I'd talk about is Nurglings.
Yeah.
Some way of creating your own little bits of the board where you're going to drop.
Yeah. Nurglings are definitely a big one for that. If people don't know, Nurglings can deploy anywhere outside your deployment zone more than 9 inches from an enemy model or an enemy, or the enemy deployment zone. So you can, if you take 2 squads, you can create a little zone in here where they can't put their deep strikers in, and create that zone. I've considered quite a lot, and this comes back to a bit of the World Eaters, is just maybe a way of getting rid of screens to come in on a turn 2 charge from Deep Strike. Yeah. I actually think that's a little bit easier to pull off, although it is susceptible to what they will do in their next turn.
People forget about their screens after turn 1.
Yeah, they literally think about it turn 1. And the problem is that they have to, particularly at the back end of the board, they have like 1 or 2 models that are just holding the back corners, but then they need to be moving those onto objectives, or they'll take those models off first because they're not closer. So there's lots of ways, and if you're going to talk about removing screens, I think this is probably the best time to talk about, in my mind, the best model and weapon for that.
Should we take a quick break for 1 second?
Yep.
While I sort this dog out. Come on, H, on your bed. H, on your bed. On your bed. Yeah, if you see him coming up, just pause for a second. So we're going to talk about
Decimated.
Yeah.
Seabing Cannon.
Yeah. Okay, so carry on for what you're doing.
So one of the best units, I think, for clearing screens is the Decimator, which I told you about.
Yeah, it's basically it's a heavy weapon, which is an anti-infantry weapon, and it's
an anti-tank weapon.
Yeah.
It's an anti-everything weapon. So if you don't know the C-beam cannon, it's in the Forge World book. Basically, if you move, you can't fire it. So you've got to be putting that down in a position that you're not planning on moving from, and putting it on something that can actually do well with that as well. So Decimate is great because it's quite tanky, fire off and vulnerable. You know, 8 wounds. It's a good piece of equipment. That. So the C-beam cannon. Does actually more damage the further range it is. Now it's only one shot, which immediately makes you think, well, how's that very good for clearing screens? But the devil is in the detail with this. So it's one shot that is strength 6, AP -3, so is pretty much no armor save for most stuff, and does D3 damage, which again doesn't sound that great. But for every 24 inches between you and the firer, it adds +2 strength and plus D3 damage. So if you're at maximum range, it's got a maximum range of 72 inches, which is the full length of the board, you can be doing strength, I think it's like 10 or so, or 9, 3d3 damage.
Yeah.
When it kills the model...
Yeah, that's when it gets good, because you do, is it 2d6?
2d6 auto hits, strength 6.
Yeah.
When it kills a model. So if you shoot at a conscript screen, for example, you kill one conscript because it's going to die. It's KP -3, like strength 10.
That's cannon.
Exactly. And then it's 2d6 auto hits the unit.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. If you take if you take a decimator, you can give 2 of them. So actually, that could be up to 4d6 strength 6 auto hits, 46 flamers basically at strength 6. And if you take 2 or 3 decimators, you've got 6 or 8 of those. Which is just an absolutely... If you're taking 3 obliterators, no matter, even if they're taking a 40-man cultist or a 30-man conscript screen, you can be pretty guaranteed that screen's going to die, or at least be mitigated to nothing.
Enough that you can drop something in. Yeah.
And then one of the key things as well with that is the 72-inch range. The reason I think that's good for the Night Lords is that you're in playing Raptors and Deep Strikers, and you really, ideally, you want to be cutting them off. Yeah. You're going to have a front line to your army because half of it has to be in Deep Strike. So you're going to be moving up the board, but where your Deep Strikers come in, you would ideally want them at the back of the board. So if you've got a weapon that can hit 72-inch range, pretty much hit anything on the board.
You want something in your home field, don't
Exactly. So a squad of cultists or something hiding in a building at the back there, and then you can just kill that from 72 inches away, and then obviously be able to bring in your Deep Strikers there for the charge on turn 2.
Yeah.
So there's some really great combos there, and then they have access to everything else that we talked about with Iron Warriors and the Black Legion in terms of psychic powers.
In terms of the traits, I think they've got one from -1 to hit as well, don't they?
Yeah, don't forget about that.
That's
I got your move.
Because it's reactive as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, so when someone shoots you, I'm pretty sure you do it then. So.
Yeah, so you declare it when the unit is being targeted. So a good example of this, the sort of standard example would be if you had a unit of plasma guns or whatever, Hellblasters, something like that, and they go, I'm going to shoot at that, and I'm going to overcharge against that Warp Talon unit because I want to do 2 damage or whatever. Then at that point you can say, oh, I'm paying more 1 CP now, and now you're -1 to hit, which actually means that you're dying on 2s when you overcharge instead of 1s, which is great. And they've already declared you, so they don't have any options. They've already declared their own overcharge, and they're declaring the unit. So
it's nasty.
It is really nasty. Worth keeping in your back pocket. I mean, it's not a hook unit, a hook stratagem that everything revolves around.
-1 to hit in this game is amazing.
It's fantastic.
And having it at any range is better than the Alpha Legion because you're up. Alpha Legion's only from 12 inches, isn't it? Whereas this, you're up in the face and you're still -1 to hit.
Yeah, exactly. It is only in the shooting phase. It doesn't work in the assault phase.
You can't have everything.
Checking one thing here just to see. So it's Night Lord's infantry. So it's any of the Night Lord's infantry, which you're going to be playing heavy infantry on.
So in terms of an army makeup for Night Lords. I mean, what would you be playing?
Honestly, I think you're going to be wanting to spam Raptors and lots of min units, basically, because you want to make sure it's hard to get 3 units in range. But if you're going to be taking 5 or 6 units, it's not so hard all of a sudden. And not everyone is going to make the charge. So when you're dropping down 1 unit, you really want to be making 3 units drop down because at least 1 or 2 of those are going to make the charge.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at min-maxing, you then start saying, well, if I'm playing a min-max style list, which is completely opposite to what we talk about the World Eaters or something like that, where you might be 20-man squads. You want to look at what I can maximise for the power for those. So, for example, Raptors can take 2 melter guns. The Champion can take a plasma gun, or you can just be taking plasma guns on them. So if you take 3 or 4 or 5 squads of Raptors deep striking all with melter guns,
That's going to do some work.
It's just a lot of power,
work.
exactly. The 12-inch range, so you're deep striking 9 inches away, which means you're going to have the range to hit what you need to hit. And you're just taking lots of squads of those. It's absolutely fantastic.
You're going to have a Chaos Lord. You're going to have something for board control from the start of the game, so your Raptors come down in the right place. That's 3 squads of Nurglings probably, or a massive squad of cultists to go over the board. The other thing to think of is, because you're so reserve heavy, do you want to put something in your list that is cheap, like spawns or something else like that, to max out your slots, so that you have 6 spawns, you get 6 units in, you put 6 units in Deep Strike as well.
I totally agree with that. I have some solutions to that. What works really well is, this is fantastic for when you're in the deployment phase, is that if you deploy a vehicle, for example, a Rhino, with a unit in it, that counts as 1 drop, but that counts as 2 units in your army for units being deployed on the board. So if you're going to take 6 squads of Raptors, for example, and a Chaos Lord with jump pack, and a Sorcerer with jump pack, and a squad of Warp Talons, you've got 6, 7, 8 units that you're deploying there. You could take, let's use a Renegade Guard, for example. You could take a Chimera with 8 Renegade Commanders, and that's 1 drop. So you go, I'm deep striking this, I'm deep striking this, I'm deep striking this, I'm deep striking this, and
here's the rest
of my army in 1 drop in a building right around the corner that's like 200 points. And if you want to table me, you have to kill 8 characters, so with 1 or 2 squads of Nurglings.
And then you can't be Alpha Stride either.
Yeah, exactly.
So what if they kill that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they can't kill that. If you take that with like 2 squads of Nurglings, they can't clear the Nurglings, pop the tank, and kill 8 characters. It's just not going to happen.
No.
So what you're actually doing is you're playing an entire Deep Strike list, which the people just aren't prepared for. They can take a couple of Deep Strikers. So
so and particularly with turn 1 being so savage nowadays, in terms of you just getting shot off the board.
Yeah. I would say though, if you're playing the Deep Strike heavy list, it is all about coming in from Deep Strike. If you don't have a good position to come in from Deep Strike, do not come in from Deep Strike.
Because they're not going to table you turn 2 with 8 characters, and Nurglings never die. No one does this. Nurglings just don't.
So you're not getting tabled. I think if we start talking about the archetype, I said if you put in the Decimators, for example, we've got 3 Decimators, a couple of characters, and however you want to do it in a building or a vehicle, a couple of squads of Nurglings, and then just lots of Deep Strikers. You probably don't want to be coming in turn 1, because it isn't going to be opportune for you. Whether you get first turn or not, you need a ton of shooting to clear off some of the screening units. Force them to spread out their list a bit thinly. It will keep them in their base, so they won't be pushing out too much. You kill that unit at the back, and all of a sudden, all of your Deep Strikers can come in a little square like this, and then you're free reign. So it's one of those armies that, if played well and not taking the immediate opportunity, waiting for the opportunity to develop, it can be absolutely brutal. You're playing against Tyranids, you just wait to pop 1 or 2 silences, and then you come in, and then the morale is really kicking into gear.
So before we go, we're going to briefly talk about, because we mentioned before some links with the Demon book, and particularly the psychic power. So if you were going to bring a Demon Psyker to sort of gel with your Night Lords list, what would it be?
I think it would be a Herald, or even a Demon Prince from the Demons Codex, because then he has access to the Slaanesh psychic powers. Demon Prince for Slaanesh is absolute BC anyway, so you definitely want to be thinking about that in your Night Lords list. But then you have access to the power which does the 2d6 compared to your leadership, as we discussed earlier. So that's a way of getting that into your list. But one thing I want to discuss very quickly is another relic in that book, which I think is absolutely fantastic, which is the Forbidden Gem.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's a way to really affect the game state in your opponent's turn, and any time that you have a chance to do something in your opponent's turn, it makes them.
Anything where you can throw them off the game, anything reactive is great. And this one, I can't remember the exact wording, so you probably best say it.
So it's called the Forbidden Gem, and basically it's a once per battle use. You reveal it at any point, at any phase, at the start of the phase, at any point in the game, and a character within 12 inches, you pick them, and they can't move, shoot, assault, charge, they can't do anything for that phase, and it also includes switching off their data slate abilities. So one that jumps to mind immediately is Guilliman, isn't it? So if you reveal the Forbidden Gem, then his aura doesn't work, which means nothing's getting rerolled.
So turn one, they do nowhere near the amount of damage they were going to do.
It just takes all the bite out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Personally, I think one of the better uses for it though is against someone like Mortarion. You let them move Mortarion up. You let them go for the warp time. You don't deny it, or maybe you try it, whatever. Then they charge, or you let them do the charge. You do the Overwatch, and then at the beginning of the fight phase,
then you hit him with it.
And you go, yeah, Mortarion isn't doing anything. He isn't. So
he doesn't even get to do the
mortal wounds.
Yeah, because it's one of his abilities to shut off.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's just sat there doing absolutely nothing, as if he was sat there halfway through this in the middle of your entire army. Now, the thing about it is that you have to roll in excess of their leadership, which can be quite tricky to do.
Unless you're a Night Lord.
Unless you're a Night Lord, and they're minus 7 leadership, so Mortarion's like leadership 2 or 3 or whatever it is, and you're guaranteed to get it off.
Yeah.
So it is a great little combo, great little relic. Obviously, you have to take a detachment in that book of the demons, and there's loads of great things that you want to be doing that. Like we'll talk about it in the demons section, but things like Fiends are absolutely fantastic in the Night Lord's heavy list where you want to be in combat because you can't fall back. So yeah, some great things there, but yeah, bear that in mind. Looking at that book, there is lots of things that work off leadership, and so leadership is a key part of the game, even if it's not in the morale phase.
Yeah, and just occasionally you're going to come across a non-fearless army.
Yeah,
and then you're going to laugh.
Brutal. Yeah, you play against Marines. You're playing against a Gilliman list.
Yeah,
they ain't fearless. You kill one model from each unit. He's taking 4 or 5 like tactical Marines in Razorbacks or whatever it is. You kill one model from each unit, and they're at minus 5 to 7 leadership. They are losing a lot of models for free. Like no attacks, no roll to hit, no wounds, no saves. Just take the model off because you're near me. So when you have that chance, I totally agree with you. It's super powerful. If you're going Night Lords, I really think Slaanesh is. You want the Icons of Wrath on your Raptors and stuff. The rest of your army, I think you want to be Slaanesh because you start talking about some of the Slaanesh stuff. They also have mitigating psychic powers. They have a minus 1 leadership psychic power. They have a few things that work off psychic powers, and they're just a great combo. I think that they work really well. So I'd be encouraging people to look at the Slaanesh book and be looking at their Night Lords in comparison.
So Night Lords, they are not useless.
They can be done.
I think they're wicked.
Yeah, it is. Again, it's an army that has to be played well, and it's strategic about the turns and where you're bringing stuff in. But if you can develop and you can create those opportunities and you can drop in, let's think of an archetypal guard list. You've got a couple of tanks, maybe a Baneblade or something like that. You've got a line of conscripts. If you drop turn 1, you go into conscripts and you're screwed. If you can kill those conscripts or get some spaces in the corner, you're dropping in with Melter Raptors against your tanks. It's just a guaranteed win at that point. Yeah. So it is worth considering in a bit more detail because they can definitely be played well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
So after this, we're going to talk about Alpha Legion. I'm going to step out for a moment and leave this man to it because he knows everything about Alpha Legion. But good speaking to you guys. And
thanks for coming down soon.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah.